live.
Okay.
It says we are up in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still working on it.
Just a warning.
Yeah. Or my internet's slow. Okay, go ahead.
And we're live and we're on. So I called the Yountville Arts Commission meeting to order for March 1st, 2021. Why don't we start with a roll call?
Thank you. Commissioner Resnick,
Here.
Commissioner Caption,
Here.
Commissioner Share,
Here.
Vice Chair Cook,
Here.
and Chair McDonald.
Here.
And it looks like our Marty and Robin are coming in right now, so we'll wait for them and then I'll verify that they are here.
They're both.
Hi, Robin. We're just doing roll call, so Commissioner Cant, can you unmute so we can hear you?
I'm here with those.
Okay, perfect. And then we're doing roll call, so Commissioner Wordsworth?
Here.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So next in order is the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will start. I don't know if we do it in synchronization or not, but oh, great.
Oh, that's nice.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag,
of the United States of America and to the republic
Republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty and
and
justice for all.
all. Thank you. So do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight? Anyone?
I'll move to adopt.
I'll second.
Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Share,
Yes.
Commissioner Resnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Caption,
Yes.
Commissioner Cant,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cook.
Yes.
Oh, I skipped Marty. Commissioner Wordsworth
Yes.
and Chair McDonald.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, we have minutes from the February 1st meeting to approve. First, does anybody have any comment in terms of change of those minutes?
Oh yeah, shoot. I didn't print them out, but I think Gabriella, it's Fernandez, not Hernandez.
Oh, with an F, let's see. That would be under marketing, right? Yeah, it's Fernandez with an F.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Sam, can you make that correction?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, and is that it? Anybody else? So do I have a motion to adopt the amended minutes for the February 1st meeting?
Sure.
Anyone? Robin? Okay,
Sure.
and a second? Is there a second?
Marty?
Marty? Marty, thank you.
Yes.
So roll call?
Commissioner Wordsworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Share,
Yes.
Commissioner Resnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Caption,
Yes.
Commissioner Cant,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cook,
Yes.
and Chair McDonald.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, Samantha, are there any public comment on matters not on the agenda?
I have not received any public comment.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're going to move into the draft budget for 2021/2022. So do you want to talk about that, Samantha?
Yes, so It's the time of year where we're working hard to prepare the next fiscal year budget. So the town does a 1-year fiscal year budget, for those of you who haven't been with us before. So we're working on the 21-22 fiscal year budget, and that will go, it will begin July 1st of 2021. And so at the commission and staff level, we take a look at obviously past years, think about what's coming up, and we make that proposal of our upcoming budget to the town manager, and then the town council after that for review and approval. And so I did a draft to the commission tonight on our 3 different accounts. And we can, from there, kind of jumping point of a conversation of, if we see changes coming up or things that we anticipate. And so if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and share my screen as we walk through each of those. And I would just say that if we could discuss them individually, I think is the easiest way. So the first one I'm going to share is our general fund budget. From there, kind of jumping point of a conversation of, if we see changes coming up. Are you able to see that? We anticipate. And so if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead. I'm hearing something. Hold on just a second. I'm sorry.
Can you zoom it in larger?
I believe I can. Just one second. Let me try. Now I have to get back to where I was. I started hearing us on a recording. Are you able to see it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's better.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Yountville Arts budget 21-22 draft. So this is our general fund account. So I showed you in different columns what we budgeted for 2021, what we've spent as of February, where I estimate our year end to be, and then what I recommend our upcoming budget recommendations to be. So under revenue, so this is the Yountville Arts budget. Sorry, just one second. I keep hearing a recording playing back, and I don't know where that's coming from.
Should we all mute at this point?
2021, what we've spent as of. Sorry, Cindy, just give me 1 second so I can try to figure out where that recording is coming from.
Okay.
Does anyone else hear that?
Yes, I hear it.
Okay. Is someone watching the meeting on YouTube? Okay. I don't hear it anymore. Are we good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cindy, you had your hand up. Did you have a question, Cindy? You were just hearing that. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like someone's watching it on YouTube and we were hearing it. Okay. And so under revenue, we show the town's funding, which is not necessarily revenue, it's just town funding. So I kind of break that apart. Typically, I believe it was 5 years ago that we set that as not to exceed $25,000. We haven't necessarily had to draw on all of that in the past. So that is somewhat of a placeholder. The NVTID Arts in April funding for Art Sip and Stroll. I reached out to Steve, which is our person who communicates with them and at their board meetings. And although they haven't approved next year's budget, he doesn't anticipate that changing. But of course, if it does, then we will have to adapt and figure that out. But that wouldn't be until the next Art Sip and Stroll for 2022 if that funding changes. Sculpture sales are something that we have not generally budgeted anything for because it's an unknown. And usually the money, it'll come in and it'll go back out with the exception of our commission. And so generally we leave those numbers at 0 with the policy understanding that the money that we earn from that is the commissions to move into the savings at the end of the year. So currently this year, as of last month, we have sold $61,700 in sculptures in this fiscal year, which is amazing. And so I'm not anticipating any more sales, although we most likely could have some, but I just don't count that until it's there. And so then revenue from art, sip and stroll booth fees. So if the in-person event goes forward, which it's looking really positive, we will bring in booth fees from the artists. We will, if we're able to offer the wine tasting portion of the event, we'll have wristband sales. That is dropping. We've increased the price to $35, and that's dropping the number of bracelets that we would offer from the past. So we typically have offered 1,000 bracelets, and I'm not anticipating that number this year, just thinking of COVID restrictions and different things that may impact that. So I think that's a pretty conservative number. The Arts Council Napa Valley grant we got last year for 2020's event. If you remember, we got a grant for up and coming artists. That hasn't been offered again this year. They've redirected their funding to emergency funding, so I don't anticipate that. And then there is out there the Napa County Arts Commission grant. But again, I'm not really counting that money because it's not good for this fiscal year. We wouldn't get funding until July, so it really would be for next year. But yes.
With the grant money, do we get it if we draw on it, or do we get it and have to give it back, or how does that work?
For which grant?
I'm sorry, for the from the Arts Council Napa Valley grant, the $3,500. Do they actually?
So we didn't get that. I had budgeted for it because I was hoping,
okay.
but then COVID hit and they didn't release the grants again, so we just didn't get it, and we didn't spend it. So
okay,
that makes sense.
Thanks.
So you'll see here, our 43,500 was what we budgeted for revenue. With the art sales, I mean, we're well over 100,000. So looking at next year, I think that that we're anticipating getting the TID funding again. We're anticipating art sip and stroll booth fees, and we're anticipating wristband sales. And so that would have our revenue. So to have a balanced budget, that would mean we would need about $18,150 in town funding for next year. So I'll get into that in just a moment to talk about expenses that would come up against that. So are we okay to move on to expenses? Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, well, my only question is, so there's right now no way of knowing whether the county art commission grant would be something we might get or not get, right?
Yeah, we won't know, and it actually, we won't know after July 1st. Or we will know, but we won't get the money until after July 1st. But if we do get it, it'll just offset some of these expenses, specifically for art sip and stroll. So then most likely the town would be not supporting it as much with funding. Basically, it could offset, unless, which it's not really structured like that, like for any type of new programs. It's really funding to sustain existing programs through COVID and issues like that. So I'm not feeling all that confident, but we definitely will pitch it for art sip and stroll next year is my thought process behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a little confused. Why is the town funding? I know it's not actual revenue, but why is the town funding? Why did you adjust that from 25,000 to 18,000?
So it's just based on expenses. So they will even us out, expenses minus revenue, up to $25,000, and that but not considering sculpture sale revenue or expense. Okay. So it's like an up to not to exceed $25,000 in support. So once I get down here into the expenses, it'll kind of make more sense.
Okay.
So under expenses, we have several categories. So I kind of broke these out to educate you even more this year on when you look at the town's actual budget, like what do these things mean? So staffing support obviously is something that you see in your monthly budget reports. And so that includes part of Danielle's time for marketing. And then we have built in some part-time staffing support for events and sculpture cleaning. And so with that staff time is all of those small little things that go along with it, like, you know, all of the other things we have to pay for that because we have staff. So it's these little amounts, but it's in your budget. It's in your monthly report. You have probably seen that. So that includes everything. Other supplies and materials. So that's what we call them in our budget. And this year, I'll go back to staffing. So we've spent about $5,300 this year. I don't anticipate we'll spend the whole $11,000 because we just haven't used it's fairly limited the amount of part-time staffing that we supply out of this, but we're not really drawing down on any of that because we're not having events. So then other supplies and materials, we budgeted $12,750, and this is overall for everything, and I'll get into the breakdown in just a minute. We have not spent much because we haven't been doing many programs, but I do estimate with Art Sip and Stroll that we will spend most of that. But then when we get down below, I'll show you why I'm estimating a drop in that. And it's just because moving some things that were in other supplies and materials into their correct category, like contract services or advertising. So it all kind of balances out. So contract services, again, 5,300 is what we budgeted for this year. I anticipate that we will end the year by spending all of that. But then again, moving things into the right category, which mainly falls here under equipment rentals, is why I'm suggesting the drop in it next year. Advertising, we budgeted $6,550. We have not spent much, but I do anticipate we will spend more than, we will spend it all. And then thinking about some of the things we've discussed about elevating the gallery shows and different things, I did estimate for additional money for advertising. Equipment rental basically all falls into Art Sip and Stroll. And so we budgeted $18,000. We will spend all of that on the rentals and tenting for the event. And then just talking with the contractor and getting our estimate for this year, those prices are increasing. And so I estimate an increase in that for next year. Conference and travel. So I did put an asterisk there. We had budgeted more, but then at mid-year, all of our conference and travel budgets were dropped significantly, of course, as a cost-saving measure, and then also just because we're not doing those things really. So it dropped to 200. I'm not really anticipating asking for a huge return on that next year. 400 would include some, potential local things if they are offered again, but that would be consistent with all of our town budgets. That's an area where we've been asked to significantly decrease in the next year. And so then you see artist payments for sold art. So this is what we have paid out to our artists for the sculpture sold to date. And so again, we don't budget anything in there in future years. It's just zero, and then it comes in and out as it does. So then let's talk about kind of the breakdown. So where do all of those big numbers come from? And so under the gallery, we budget for 3 to 4 exhibits, is how we've turned it. Basically, it's 4. Am I correct?
Yeah, normally.
4,
yeah.
4.5.
4.5 if we do children. Yeah.
So other supplies, this would include exhibit signage and other supplies. So breaking it down this year, we budgeted $650. We've spent just under $260. But I anticipate, based on some of the numbers for Quinn's show, the things I know we still have outstanding, and then some banners probably for the 3-person show that we'll spend a little bit more than that. I am increasing that to $1,500 for the next year, because we probably will look at additional methods of doing some, outreach and signage, or if we want to, kind of build on what we have there in the gallery setting. Refreshments, we've spent nothing because we haven't had any in-person or receptions where we can do that. But I did still keep that in the budget for 700 next year. We never spend 750, so 700 felt pretty reasonable. And then advertising and marketing, we budgeted 750. To date, we've spent $1,186. I think we'll end up spending 1,300 at least. And then I was looking at budgeting 2,000 for the future, so that would include, typically the money goes towards, we do some Facebook advertising of, opening events or the show as a whole, and then the Yountville Sun. And then if we, branch out into other areas, we can be dipping into that too. So overall, it's almost doubling the budget for the gallery based on conversations that we have had.
So let me throw out, in terms of marketing for the gallery, obviously this year and specifically this month with Quinn, we're doing, and Cindy is doing a live stream. So that's going to cost some money. And so does this budget reflect some of the things that Cindy with marketing may be doing that we haven't done in the past and for the gallery?
As far as the future,
yeah, as far as next year and the budget to, I don't know if we're going to regularly have Gabriella interview an artist and do a live stream, but obviously those kinds of things cost additional money. And I assume that this category you just covered would be the place in the budget where that would be covered, right?
yeah. So I think I haven't seen the invoices yet for Gabriella, but I can't remember what the cost of that was if we were to do 4, if potentially we did 4 somethings like that.
Yeah.
Well, Gabriella's 500.
So
And
if we did that 3 or 4 times, that would be, and I don't know that we will, but that would be $2,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, she could also potentially do, like Noelle was saying, they didn't have the money in the budget to promote Art Sip and Stroll with the radio station, but that might be something that we could consider down the road as, promotion during the event, having the radio station out there, either with her or with a different DJ.
Right.
They charge for that also, though.
Right, that's what I
Correct?
mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're thinking about doing that, then we should consider putting that in the budget, for for next year.
Yeah, so when we get to Art Sip and Stroll, we can discuss that one. But yeah, I guess so your point is, Jim, that if we spent $500 like that for each artist, each show, and we didn't do any other marketing, that would wipe out the $2,000.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's planned either in June or possibly delayed till July with Guy Buffet in terms of gallery and live stream that's separate from Art Sip and Stroll. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I think the virtual came about this year primarily because we still were unable to really open the gallery and celebrate the artists. Unless we're extremely successful and we continue to do it, I would imagine usually it's going to be in-person event with the artists where we can really go into the gallery and have some wine and chat. Depending on who our audience is. I mean, if we get a very wide reach throughout California or the country, that's different because obviously those people can't come here. But I initially we planned this event and we really made it a great event because nobody could come to the gallery for the most part.
So you're marketing and so is Cindy. So is what we're doing for Quinn, is that like a one-off? And then once we get back to bringing people into the gallery, we won't be doing that? Or are we, Cindy, are you planning to continue?
I'd like to continue it if there's interest. And especially, the thing that is like Noel was saying, it's like now we're thinking nationally with Guy Buffet, we're thinking internationally. I mean, it's not inconceivable. I mean, we've all probably been on live stream things where people from many other countries are joining in because they can. And I think it's really, it's really amazing to have that technology. So I actually purchased a StreamYard. I purchased the StreamYard membership, the Place It membership for the promotional things, and also we might consider, actually I already purchased some microphones and just sort of accessories that would help the live stream be more professional. But I think it's a really fun thing. If I kind of like to see how this one goes, but I'd be happy to try to do it again. But I think it's really important to have a professional host, because it's just a lot of there are a lot of moving pieces. Like today, anyhow, there are a lot of moving pieces. So you
Yeah.
need basically a director, which would be me, a director, a producer, and then the host, and then the person that's being interviewed.
Let me throw something off the top of my head then. It seemed like we were pretty successful a year ago with Whitney. Could we do some with somebody that we're paying like Gabriella? And I assume we didn't pay Whitney to work with Quinn the first time. So might she be an occasional fill-in non-paid host if she were willing to do it? I'm just throwing that out. And
Well-
Noelle, you may have a thought about that.
I would imagine she would be willing to do it because I know they're really, really supporting everything, and they have been supporting everything that we've been doing. So I would imagine so.
Okay, so
I'm just not sure that that's fair to Whitney. I'd say watch what we're going to do on March 11th, and it will, I think it's going to be just really very professional because of all the background that they're doing together. That's taking many hours to learn, and so I think I think Whitney's fantastic, but it's really it's kind of like, what level do you want? If you want it professionally done, I think it's important to pay people.
I think
So I'll just, oh, go ahead,
I was
sorry.
just going to say it's more than an MC. She's doing research as a host, but I also, as somebody that's been an MC, depending on who the guest is, I'd be happy to volunteer too. But I do know that it takes the familiarity and not just somebody that's just stepping on and reading the questions. Yeah.
So I don't think it's too far out of reach though. So if we kind of break it down and we set some limitations. So let's say we budgeted $500 for that person or that effort. Every show would be, $2,000 a year at the most. Typically what else has come out of that is that budget is an ad in the Yountville Sun. And then we do some Facebook and Instagram paid marketing. So I mean, even if we did a slightly smaller outreach in the Sun, I think, and then with Facebook and Instagram, I think we could still budget $250 a show, I think would be reasonable for that extra. And then the signage, the banners come out of the other budget. So I feel like just increasing that to $3,000 would actually get us pretty close to what we want to be doing, and then still would leave us below the $25,000 threshold that the town sponsors. So I feel like that it would put us in a safe place to continue trying to work towards what we're achieving now, and not every artist will probably want to take us up on that. So it leaves us some cushion. I feel comfortable with that if you guys do.
that sounds like a good compromise to me.
Okay.
I agree. Sam, we probably wouldn't do that for a live stream for the children's show, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably, most likely, we wouldn't do it for the 3 artists, who knows? Noelle and I can tell you that Guy Buffet does not give a good interview. So even though we might like to have him, I don't know how real the possibility of it is. So I think, Sam, your number is probably realistic, and we just have to adjust our budget ourselves accordingly.
Yeah, and then I think if there are artists who don't take advantage of that, we can reallocate those funds and do more placement ads or something like that to further them. Because part of our advertisement budget going over this year was with the virtual shows, it's so difficult to market to people because no one's out. So we did do more ads in the Sun. We did more online ads. So I think that, based on the specific show and the person, if they don't want to do live stream, then we reprogram that money and do other stuff for them. But I think that's very reasonable.
I think we're going to get a lot of bang for our buck with the email blast too, because Cindy, I believe you've reached out to a few different organizations that are groups that we might be able to tap into again. Some of them possibly not, because they're very specific in terms of the affinity group. But I think with the chamber and with Yountville Arts and all the additional emails, the lists we might pick up, that'll also help, especially with local folks. Well, and for the streaming, with people anywhere. What's great about that is you don't have to be here.
Right.
Yeah. Does that feel comfortable, Cindy?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll move on to Art Sip and Stroll. So again, similar categories. So advertisement, in the past, we budgeted $5,500 for advertising. And most of that in the past has gone to the Chronicle, but I think that we're gonna, or not necessarily the printed Chronicle paper, but using their marketing resources. So we're doing some different things this year, and we may adapt that. We still have to drill down on how we want to use the rest of that money with the Art Sip and Stroll subcommittee. But I am anticipating that we'll spend a little bit more just because of the Guy Buffet piece to kind of elevate that. Then we budget for maps and other collateral, so banners, when we print art walk maps specific for the event, and the listing of all the artists. So we budget $3,300 for that. We haven't spent very much, and I don't anticipate in the future we'll need to spend as much. I don't think. I'm just saying we're spending it all because it's a big event coming up this year. But in the past, we have not spent all of that reproduction and collateral money. We just haven't ordered as much. Parking, in the past, we budgeted $1,800 for use of the parking at the museum, as well as hiring the parking company. I don't anticipate that being an option this year, so I don't believe we will spend that, and I don't anticipate that being an option moving forward. And so I'm kind of coming up with an alternate way to communicate out to people where we do want them to park and where we don't. And I don't feel too uncertain because the parking at the museum wasn't well utilized, and it did cost us quite a bit of money. People park where it's close and they don't really care what you say. So we will do our best to control that. Event assistants. So we had hired an event planners, Nikki and Julie, in the past, and I don't anticipate using them this year, but I have put a little bit of money in next year just because mainly the event falls to Danielle and I am down a staff person in my department. If we do see a lot of new business for rentals and stuff on Danielle's plate, I may need to bring someone in to assist with next year's event, but that is uncertain at this point. When we order the glasses and other supplies, so we budgeted $5,000 this year. We haven't spent any of it, and I don't anticipate spending more than $2,500 because we ordered Govino glasses for last year's event that we never used, and that's a large part of that money. So we'll just have some money for other supplies, and then next year I'm anticipating, again, we'll go back up to needing more funding to get all glasses and all of that. I talked about it earlier. So under equipment rentals, so this would be all of the tents, tables, chairs, umbrellas that we order and rent for the event. I anticipate we'll spend all of that this year and then see an increase next year. So that is Art, Sip, and Stroll. And so then also included in the general fund are literary programs. So we budget $300 for advertising and marketing. We spent some of that mostly for Yountville Sun and online ads for when we did the virtual Yountville Out Loud. We put some marketing behind that. I am suggesting we increase that just because I know Jim is has his wheels turning with Marianne about doing some additional literary events around our hometown poet laureate. So I did anticipate maybe a little increase there. And then refreshments for those events. We haven't spent anything. And again, we don't typically spend as much as we budgeted. And then event supplies. So if we needed anything specific for an event. So I've kept that, I have kept that pretty stagnant from last year. So does that look okay, Jim?
That looks okay. And I think I told you earlier today that once things kind of open up, maybe outside in the fall, we may regroup with BookMine in terms of doing some book events as well.
Yeah. And so then this is that full-time and part-time staffing support line. Again, I'm budgeting a slight increase to 12,000 for next year, just as mainly full-time staffing costs increase each year. So, and then other would be, so we started the year out with $2,000 in our conference and training budget. It would be for a retreat and trainings. And then, like I said, that was reduced to 200 at mid-year. And I'm only asking for 400 going into next year. And I know it's been on our wish list to send someone to Colorado for the sculpture site. I don't know if it's a festival, but this year we've been told that none of us are being approved for out-of-state travel, so that would include Yountville Arts budget. But I feel like I don't know if anyone really would want to travel yet, but I feel pretty confident in the next budget year we'll be able to get that in.
Good. Good.
So that is the general fund budget. And so when you see all of the expenses, did I not total them? Oh, I did up here. So with the addition of $1,000 more for the gallery, that would put us at $58,650 in expenses. And so to answer your question, Cindy, when we take that number minus the revenue we're anticipating, it gives us what the town's funding would be, basically. So. So, but again, that does not include anything from sculpture sales. We broke that out totally. So that doesn't count against us at all, the revenue from sculpture sales. So,
okay. So
that's what drives that number. So that number would be up to 19,150. So then obviously below the 25,000 gives us a little wiggle room if in the event like the TBID decides not to fund the event because of issues, with COVID and room rates and all of that, but I don't anticipate that, but you never know.
Okay. So we're not trying to make a profit. We're trying to not spend $25,000 as much as we can not spend $25,000 over. Right. I mean, that's. So
we don't get the money. I mean, if we don't spend it all, it doesn't go into our pocket at all. The only thing that does that is the sculpture sales. So we've set that up so that whatever the Arts Commission makes as commission from sculpture sales at the end of the fiscal year transfers into your Town Yountville Community Foundation kind of savings account. But yeah, so we just try to balance it. So we don't want to necessarily, if we have the town's funding more than $25,000, which is up, in previous years, what the council has directed as the threshold that that we would need to somehow cover that gap.
So only the sculpture sales go into the community fund, not the 20% of gallery sales?
That too, I'm sorry. We have put we call it sculpture sales, but it's really art sales.
Oh, okay.
So I need to update that. Thank you for saying that. I will definitely update how I phrase that, but it's all art sales.
Okay, so if the art sale, so that would be the pot where if we wanted to purchase something, we would
From the foundation, yeah, or from your other
Dedicated.
pot, which we'll get to next.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know it's confusing because we have these 3 pots, but yes, but hopefully it gets it a little clearer every year. All right. Any other questions on the general fund?
So that should be obviously the gallery is a small part of it, but it should be sculpture / gallery sales.
Yes, we will definitely change that, or we'll just call it art sales.
Okay.
I'll make that change. All right. Any other questions on that one before we move on? I'll let you look at each other for a moment. Yes, Noelle.
Just a comment. I think I speak for all of us in thanking you, Sam, for really making so much available to this year and really exploring potential and events. And I think we all understand budget, but also what our budget is. I think we've seen if we have a compelling case for some event. I'm not saying we can keep grabbing money. It doesn't work that way, but I think we've seen that Sam is willing to listen to what we have, and we are given the opportunity to try and put innovative and interesting programs together. And I know we all thank you. And I think it's just wonderful. I just think the awareness of art in town is just building, in the gallery and the art sip and stroll and the event we did with Quinn and all. I was not at the event, but from what I heard too, it was quite an event, and we're bringing in new audiences and different demographics, and it's really wonderful. And that's because you've been supporting us, Sam, to kind of just mount.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have the amazing
campaign.
ideas.
So
I don't have the creativity that you all have. So, and
You're pretty creative.
I rarely say no. Sometimes I just say slow down, and I just really want to make sure that I'm supporting all this great work. And, having seen behind the scenes with Cindy and what is going to occur with this streaming thing, I mean, I think we're all going to be just blown away. So I've seen some of the rehearsals, and the technology that I've learned about from what she's been exploring is just really spectacular. So I think we're all going to be super jazzed about it. And the nice thing about those things is they live on. It's not a one-time thing. It's something that we can use, or the artist can use, for forever. It's a living video out there, as Noelle knows how amazing those things can be. So I'm excited about all this stuff. So yeah, thank you. That was really nice of you, Noelle. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to the next budget, which would be somewhere on my screen. Hold on, I gotta change screens. Here we go. So we're going to look at the art fund budget next. So are you all able to see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it clear? Should I zoom in more? Is it good? Okay. So this is the Art Fee Fund 23. So this, again, is the designated fund for the Art Walk that is from funded through the 1% valuation of any commercial building permit. So this was a program, I believe we're going into the 3rd year. And so we have basically we collect the funding. So when the project pulls the permit, the money goes into a deposit account. And at that point, they can choose to place art, which that application would have to come through the commission for evaluation. We have not had anyone do that as of yet. Or they can choose that the money would then go into the fund for spending once the project has concluded. And so we started out this fiscal year with $61,732 in that account, and that is spendable money. we anticipated another 21,000 coming into the account this year. And that was based on, every month I look at the report and I see what new permits have come in, anticipating what we may be closing out as we move forward. And so that's just so you know how I calculate these numbers. And then we will have some interest income every year as well. So actuals, so our fund balance as of February was just over 42,714. So we've been spending money, but I have not moved money in this year yet. So I only do it quarterly generally. Things have been fairly slow. So I just initiated the transfer last week. And so I transferred just over $30,000. So projects that had finaled in this fiscal year. And so that money all moved into the account. So I'm estimating our year end in that account be at least $67,000 and then some interest income. And so I guess looking forward to next year, things have slowed down significantly. There are some projects that we know are out there on the horizon, but based on the economy and all of everything, we're just uncertain if we'll actually see those applications come in or not, yet alone those projects finishing. So one of the main ones out there is the V Marketplace updates. So that's hanging out there. And then I've also heard a little bit of squirming about Plaza Quercia potentially doing some upgrades. So there are some projects out there, but we will not I don't anticipate us seeing the large amounts of funding that we saw in the early days, probably for quite some time. So when we started this fund, just for our newer commissioners, the Vintage Bellagio project and came on, there was significant income from the handwritten space. Napa Valley Lodge did significant upgrades. And so there were a couple very large projects that really kicked off the funding for this. So looking at expenses, the only expenses that we can charge to this fund are directly related to the art walk. And so we anticipate spending money on maintenance every year. So $1,500, and maintenance would be generally, we have had Chaos Pamplona cleaned and waxed, and then the mural is also power washed every year. And then we also have staff doing maintenance and cleaning the sculptures as well. So we'll get started after the rainy season on that again. And so we haven't spent much money. We've only had Chaos Pamplona done. We will end up having the mural power washed, hopefully, because we will have the artist coming up, hopefully in late spring before the end of the fiscal year, to paint those doors on it. So I would keep that budget the same. We did budget last year for more sculpture pads. That's a good question for Kim and the Art Walk Committee, if we anticipate having any new pads poured. I think we're kind of maxed out in that. So I did have a recommended budget in here, which we can leave as a placeholder, but I'm not sure if we have anything lined up. You feel good? Kim's giving me a thumbs up. Okay. Artist stipends. And so, as you know, we paid $2,500 stipend per sculpture to artists. I anticipate that we will spend more than that this year. We've been selling, and we've been placing a lot more art this year than we have in the past. As of February, we had placed $17,500 we've paid in stipends. And I think we have a few pieces hanging out there that will come through this year again. So artist stipend wise, I budgeted $15,000, and that is mainly just based on looking at Kim's schedule of things that time out. So it's kind of a wiggly number because we don't really know if something's going to sell and we're going to have to replace it, right? So 15,000 is 6 sculptures. We can increase it, back to the 17.5. That would be 7 sculptures. I'm comfortable with whatever. you want to do? Okay, we'll leave it. Plaques are about $265 each, so that would be for the 6 plaques. In the past, we budgeted for installation, so if we have to bring in a crane or something like that, we've spent a little bit of money this year, mainly just for parts and stuff like that that we've had to add. But mostly it's happening internally. We're doing most of the installations internally, but I'm still keeping the $1,000 budget in there just in case we get a giant sculpture or something like that. And then just other supplies. So if we have to, purchase other things, and also other supplies coming out of that is our $29 a month for the audio tour. I charge to the Art Walk Fund as well. So that comes out of there. And then if we, have other supplies or anything that we need. So that's about $21,000 a year for the expenses, which would bring our fund balance down to $50,000 at the end of next year, based on my estimations. So this came up at our previous meeting, so I put it in here, and we'll just keep it in here in the budget for the year. So in July 2019, you all approved a policy of maintaining a reserve balance of $40,000 that could provide approximately 2 years worth of funding for Art Walk's expenses should funding slow. So, that is just in theory, it's an administrative policy of the commission. And so if at some point you decided that, you wanted to discuss, making a purchase which drew you down to, $20,000, then we would have to have those discussions. And I feel like we're in kind of some uncertain times as far as development in town is concerned. And I believe we're all pretty reserved when making any of those decisions. I don't think there's anything on the horizon for us to buy at this point. But that was the policy that was set in 2019.
That all makes really good sense to me, Samantha.
Okay.
I cannot really imagine adding much more in the way of sculpture pads, and installation and plaque, artist stipends and plaques kind of depends on, we always have some things that have been here beyond the 2 years, but if we don't get the right piece to replace it, we just kind of leave it in place. So that makes sense. So there is I know for, was it the gallery where you charge for some staff time?
Yes.
But the Art Walk Fund does not get charged for any of the staff time when they help with an installation?
Yeah, so we, the way that fund was set up and the information that was approved, it does not allow us to charge town staff time to it.
Okay.
So basically for
it, but
yeah, for public, so for like the public works time, it's just absorbed into their budget. But yeah.
Okay, I won't complain about that.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of husbands that also put in significant time in installing.
And wives.
That would be Steve Cook and Michael
Yeah.
Scher.
Yes, and we have one scheduled for this Wednesday. Yes.
Yeah. I think Cindy had her hand up.
I have it's kind of I'm not muted, right? I have a question about about the plaques and solds. So the plaques, what happens to the plaque after an item sells? Do we just recycle it? I mean, like, metal recycle?
Generally, depending on the artist, if they're local, they usually want the plaque.
Oh,
If it's something we ship back to them, like 2 we've had lately, they just get recycled.
okay.
I mean, put in a recycle bin. We can't use them again.
That's because they want Rhonda's phone number, I imagine.
Yeah. For a cheap date.
And so, sort of a related question is, we've talked about putting a sold sign on something. So, and my box experience tells me people like to walk off with things, but if I was wondering if we put like a sold thing that could be welded to the plaque, would that work instead of like putting a sold sign that's in the ground that could just be walked off with. But anyhow, so the bigger question is, should we put sold signs on the pieces that have sold?
I think that's kind of an interesting idea. I'll think about that. I know like Yellow Twister left and it got sent back. And so the new piece got installed, but I wait until the piece gets installed before I order a plaque. So there's like a month where there would be no plaque for it. So I just left Yellow Twister's plaque in front of it, just so it had a phone number and an audio tour. So you would want to, you could put the sold tag on, but then take it off when the other piece gets installed. But it is an interesting idea. Let me think on that, because I like that.
And I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah, it is.
But I'd also point out that with the exception of observation tower, once the sculpture is sold, it moves out pretty fast.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, so if we're doing something custom, by the time we got it done, it would be gone. It's usually within
sticker that we put on the plaque or something, something easy like that.
Something, yeah.
Put it on, take it off.
What about just having something you can drape over it and take a picture, so that either in social media or to the Sun or Register, you have a picture of something that says sold across it with the actual piece before it leaves.
You could
market those. You could use those pictures for marketing.
Yeah, you could take a picture and then just add sold across it. You don't actually
isn't that what you did, Sam? You and Danielle? It looked fabulous for print. For digital, you don't have to make anything at all.
Yeah,
we just put sold across the image we had.
And it was extremely effective. I might also say that if we're going to put sold signs, it really should be something people can see. You put a sticker on the ground, nobody's going to see it unless they're actually walking right by it and looking down. So if it's something inexpensive that we can afford to lose, I'd like to think people, I mean, all I know is all our patio furniture at North Block, it's still there. It's not chained down every night. Thank God. And throughout town. So I'd like to keep a little faith in mankind that if we put some signs that just say sold, that maybe didn't require a lot of investment in case we did lose some, that they would work, especially if the pieces are not on display for that much longer. I just think it's fun.
We have those COVID yard signs, all around town. You've seen them, wear your mask. We haven't lost any of those, but they're cheap. I mean, you can get smaller ones for about $18. I think we could get some of those that we put out, and, for a day. I don't think it should be out for a ton of time, but, a couple days.
Yeah.
For some photo ops.
We can use them more than once, provided they stick around. I mean, we just move it to the next sale. But, for all the reasons that we can rationalize why sculpture sold so much this year, it is somewhat of an anomaly, and we don't know how much that's going to continue. We're hopeful, but
I think it's COVID related. That people they're not traveling, so they have disposable income for.
That's what I think.
Like that.
Yeah,
but hopefully we're maybe starting a trend, because we're putting it in the gift guide this year.
Well, hopefully, sure. We used to sell.
No, we are. I mean, so that'll be nice. Actually, it'll be like I think it'll be very interesting for some of our more affluent residents.
Yeah, why give Louis Vuitton when you can give art?
Right?
You don't need no $30,000 purse. You can have a sculpture in your front yard.
Right. The gift that keeps on giving. However, we have seen it to be the case, Rhonda.
Yeah.
And she gift wrapped it and everything, and it was really amazing. So why not at least check it out? I think it's an easy thing for us to do, because it's a total digital endeavor and it doesn't require a lot of expense or inventory, because we already have it.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'll work on that.
Okay. So we have one more budget page.
Yeah, so last up is the Town of Yountville Community Foundation budget. So this is kind of what I refer to as our savings account. So this year, our fund balance when we started the fiscal year was just over 24,000, and as of February, it was $34,362. We did have some donations come in for the school sculpture in this fiscal year. And then we had the transfer from the general fund, which was $8,200 from last year. So that's what the revenue for our commission of sculptures and art sold from last fiscal year is $8,200. I am anticipating we end the fiscal year with those same dollar amounts. Wait.
But Sam, isn't our the revenue from the sculpture sales already higher than that?
Yes, for next year. Yeah. So I'm budgeting.
Sure.
So that transfer will take place in the next budget year because they can't transfer it until the fiscal year ends. So I'm anticipating that is $11,000 for next year, and that's pretty low. It's actually higher
It
than
is
that.
low. Yeah, it's low.
I was noticing though, I do need to, oh yeah, I did add it in there. Never mind. So you'll notice the fund balance going into next year is only $29,862. And that is including the $4,500 expense that we budgeted or not to exceed for the mural doors. So if we can get that done in this fiscal year, then we'll be able to pay them out for that. And then the contract services, that was payments for the school sculpture as well. So yeah, as Rhonda pointed out, I do definitely think that our transfer will exceed the $11,000 that we'll get next year, but I won't know the final dollar amount until we finish the fiscal year. But we don't typically budget anything expense-wise coming out of this account, really, or revenue-wise, with the exception of the transfer, because this is a kind of a one-off area. You would have a project come forward or a purchase come forward that you would allocate from this account as it came up. So, any questions on that one?
No.
No? Okay. Alrighty, so I will stop sharing.
Want to say anything about the current year's budget? Or are we budgeted out at this point?
Yeah, so I included the estimated year ends in the information that I gave, and then our next item, you have your monthly financial report, so I can go in to that in a little more detail, but it's basically where all the numbers that I put as as of February are the same numbers that the art fund report is reporting, so it's a little bit redundant, but I would yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions or take any other notes that you might have. And then if you would like to vote to bring that budget as proposed forward to the council, to Steve first, the town manager, and then to the council, with the addition of $1,000 to the gallery marketing. I believe that was the only change that we discussed.
So Kim
Yeah, I
has
just
the
want to
question.
also say thank you to Samantha for all the work it takes to put that together. I
Yeah.
really appreciate
you.
that. That's an insane amount of
Yeah.
work, and you make it very clear what's going on. So thank you. And I do
Thank you.
100% support spending more money on the advertising for the gallery. If we want to be a destination for the arts, the art walk is visible, but the more we can do for the gallery makes perfect sense to me. So yes, I would like to make a motion to
Thank you.
accept that with addition for the gallery.
I would like to second that motion with the addition for the gallery.
All
Do we
right.
have
Commissioner Wordsworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Scher,
Yes.
Commissioner Resnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Caption,
Yes.
Commissioner Cant.
Can't hear you.
Okay. Vice Chair Cook
Yes.
and Chair McDonald.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, so that was the budget for the year coming up. Did you want to say anything, or do we have any further questions about the year to date for this year that we all have in our agenda? Or is that pretty clear?
Okay.
So so can we move on?
We can.
Unless there's a question about January's numbers.
Yeah.
So why don't we move on to the Art Walk subcommittee?
Okay, I really don't have anything new. We have no new sculptures. We're doing a little bit of moving around and things like that. And I have some feelers out for some new stuff, but nothing new to offer you right now. And just want to thank Samantha for the work to put together the presentation and the paperwork and getting the slingshot. The sculpture in front of the community center now belongs, it's been signed by the artist and it now belongs to the town of Yountville.
Right.
And on that note, I'm going to send an email out this probably by the end of the week. I was going to have a thank you card at the community center. So if you have time and you're in the area to stop by to sign it, if you'd like, we're going to mail him one of the etched bottles of wine from the town with a nice thank you card. So if you'd like, I'll let you know when it's there and you can, if you have time to stop by.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Next up would be gallery subcommittee, and we just had a very nice opening for Quinn Sane this past Thursday. Those of you who have not been in the gallery, you have about 2 months, but I would hope that you would come in and see the current exhibit. As far as I know, Cindy and Sam can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've sold, in addition to some boxes of his cards, we've sold 4 pieces of art. Is that correct?
Yep.
So that's fantastic. And the two, actually, on the opening night, the 2 largest pieces in the gallery both sold. So that's great. We have a Yountville, all Yountville artist show of 3
Excuse
artists.
me, what was the dollar amount on that?
What's the dollar amount on the sales?
Yeah.
I don't have.
I think
It was 2,700.
Yeah.
2,700 is what we sold so far.
Yeah. Okay. Great. May 6th, we have Yountville Artist ×3. June 10th, Guy Buffet. And then we've talked about, I think Rhonda talked last time about the fall show. We don't need to talk more about that right now. And at this point, I also want to point out that Kim and I are both working, or now it's in Kim's court, but on a sheet of kind of stating a checklist of what we offer the artists on both the art walk and in the gallery, and what we expect from them in return. So that'll be coming up at a future meeting.
Are you also able to mention that they can buy advertorials at a very discounted rate from Napa Valley Life? Or is that something that's not any kind of conflict of interest, I would imagine, since we don't have anything to do with Napa Valley Life, but that's something I never knew about until Quinn actually went ahead and did that. And he's going to have a nice layout, and I mean, that magazine is everywhere. It's a lovely magazine, and I'm sure, and it will also be in the digital edition, which is available to everyone, complimentary. So
Do you know why they offer it at a discount? Is it because it's affiliated with
the arts,
or the arts?
With the arts, to the artists. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it necessarily for an advertorial for the art walk, although we would get a chamber discount. But artists actually get the largest discount of all. And you know, it's all relative in terms of how much they want to spend in their marketing. But nevertheless, it's certainly something to put in there. I think just as an added incentive, should they be so inclined to want to see something very nice in print about them. It's a full page article.
Okay, well.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, on that note, we could also say, you know, talk with Sharon. Does the Yountville Sun want to offer something, or does, you know, I don't know what other people offer, but I think, that would be a great addition.
Okay, so that's, you're gonna get to see what the draft of that eventually before it is finalized. So we'll consider those ideas. Okay. And unless anybody has any other questions about the gallery, next would be literary, and nothing is currently on the calendar, but there are some ideas for things, including possibly an outdoor Yountville Out Loud in September. So any literary events probably will not happen until the fall. So unless there's any other questions, I guess we can move on to marketing. So that would be Cindy.
Yeah. So thanks to Jim and Sam for a very successful opening. We had a good time was had by all. I am going to it's so three pieces sold that night, and then and some of his cards as well. The card sets go for $45 a piece, and then he has bigger card sets as well. And then I sold a piece on Saturday when I was in the gallery to a couple that let us keep it there. But that's also, and it's interesting that big pieces are selling. So the three largest pieces in the gallery have sold. And then one small piece. And on Sunday, I almost sold another big piece. I'm like this close, Rhonda. I was really tempted to call you and say, how do it's like the hook is in.
Yep.
No, but they're really, actually they wanted, what the thing was, the piece that he has in the gallery is like $900, but they wanted that acrylic. So it's probably going to end up, if they purchase it, it's going to be, I don't know, probably $2,000 or $3,000 for that, because the acrylic.
Yeah, I looked at his website with the acrylic, and it's not inexpensive. So that would be really exciting for him.
Yeah. So anyhow, so I'm gonna just kind of reach out to them and stuff, because they were very interesting in that in that really big piece with the acrylic. So
may I ask you a quick question, Cindy? How is the walk-in traffic? Because I thought it was wonderful to see a sign out there saying
Yes.
gallery event.
Yes, it was good.
Wonderful.
It was steady. A lot of it was the bathroom, which was a big draw. Nobody, there were, so, there's that. But so there was, like, I'd say a lot bathroom, but then a lot had read it in the sun, and some people were just walking by and saw the sign. And because Jim inspired me, I brought my bubble machine out on Sunday.
I did.
You did. So the bubble machine was out there, and
I think I don't know. Is there a prize for the most art sales of any commissioner on the commission? I think Cindy's got an inside track for that.
That's right. I can tell you. I'm telling you, I'm so good at that 1-minute conversation. It's like,
We got to combine your talents and Rhonda's talents.
right.
We can just all retire.
Like, I know how to tell people to, please stop your engine, stop your car and turn off the ignition. Step one.
I think Kim has a question.
Cindy, is the sign, I saw it when I drove by it on the weekend, the sign that you're using, is that the art event today, or do you have a gallery open sign?
I think it said gallery open.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam has that. Yeah.
It's both. It
I
says
saw-
on one side it says gallery event today. On the other side it says gallery open. So it's
Oh, okay.
two-sided.
Well, I think it's fun to show the event, gallery event. It's like, wow, something's going on in there. And yes, it's an event. We're showing Quinn's, photos.
Yeah.
And there's
But
a
I think
bathroom.
But I think it encourages people. People see a little event. It's not tasting. They know they can
Yeah.
walk in. I think it really just makes them at least take a peek. And maybe next time they'll have more time and spend some time, or maybe this time they'll spend some time. But I have to tell you, I thought it was fabulous to see that out there.
Yeah, and
I
some
know we've
people,
talked about it for so long.
yeah, and some people, they came by, they went across the street, they had lunch, then met their friends, then they brought their friends by, and so it was good. I need to get better at having them sign the book because I didn't have anybody sign the book. But anyhow, the other thing I think I'll send this to all you guys. I made a flyer, a piece of paper out of Danielle's flyer, and then also a mailer out of the invite that you're going to be getting. But I just put like a bunch of these in my car, and I'm giving them to people not in the vaccine line, but but just people that I
Why
mean,
not?
I know, really. It's like, do you want this?
Yeah.
So I'm giving this to friends, and it's nice just to have a copy around to have. The other thing that is through public relations, and I haven't connected with Allison Stelzner, but Herrenhaus it has that a very large piece that Quinn has that's showing in their gallery, and they actually sent people on Sunday down to the gallery.
Oh, that's great.
And so I'm gonna definitely give them some flyers, but Allison was supposed to contact me about doing something even more, and I don't know what the more is, but whatever the more is, probably should go to the committee or at least to Jim if it's something something else, like a
Well, let me ask Sam, is there a conflict if we were also to tell people on that come to the gallery that they can see more of his work down the street?
No, I think it's a great connection to one of our businesses. I think they've had his work on display for quite some time, so I think it's great. I don't think they have a lot of it anymore, if
I
I'm not
think they only have
mistaken.
I think they only have one big piece, but what if they want something like a disc, like a coupon or something, like, oh, here's 10% off at Herrenhaus tasting down the street. Would that be, because I mean, through the chamber we have a lot of wine partners, I think, and I don't want to direct people to one when they walk past three others.
Yeah,
So
it gets a little tricky. That stuff gets pretty tricky. So, because we've had even just the community center have some of the tasting rooms want to drop off 2-for-1 coupons, and we don't display them just because it's kind of squirrely. So, but if there's a partnership opportunity where we could say there's these direct connections, and that, anyone, I don't know. Let's just see what she has to offer and see
yeah,
how
that's
we
that.
can work on it.
That's yeah.
Allison's amazing. She has so many unique and creative ideas and just always wants to try stuff. So I would hate to squash that opportunity, and we'll
Yeah.
just see.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of what my feeling was. We'll see, and then decide if it's appropriate in our for the committee and stuff. And that's about it. We'll have Noelle and Robin. We're gonna probably need to set up a rehearsal with StreamYard again, and you can play different parts as we go. But right now, Kay is getting a little tired of rehearsal. The rehearsal mode that we have at home. She's already signed our dog up for Eventbrite now. We're just running out of ways to mess up Eventbrite and YouTube because I'm so afraid that I'm going to break it.
I also wanted to say that the chamber is going to do their email blast this week. I think it's going to be on Thursday. That's what they're targeting for. They haven't firmly committed, but usually what they think they're going to do is what they do. And we went ahead, we offered them the option of Cindy's, the artwork she just printed up. And although it's similar to our email blasts and all our collateral material, it's effective because it's going to different email lists, and it also is beautiful. So I certainly have no problem with that. We also offered them the ability to co-host the Eventbrite site if they wanted to use that, but they like the pamphlet or the graphics that we had for that, so that's what they're going to be using, and that's going to be great. And when we get to Art Sip and Stroll, we've got our rack cards now for the Guy Buffet exhibit, and they came out really beautiful. Rhonda will talk more about that, but also the chamber is very excited to use them digitally when the opportunity arises, and also to distribute them when there is a visitor center again. And also we have some little spots around town where they can go, and Sam, I believe some of your staff has key places where they usually put these, and they'll be out working like little elves, placing things around. And here's a question for everybody. Cindy's been doing such a bang up job at the gallery, and we are going to put her contact information, because she's looking for dates too, I guess, like Rhonda. We're going to put her contact information on the chamber email blast, so people will know if they would like to schedule a private viewing by appointment on the weekends that the gallery will now be open. So we were wondering, Sam, is there a place that we can put it also on the Yountville Arts website? Because I know we don't even have the gallery hours listed other than on the beautiful graphics, the posters or flyers that Danielle puts together.
Yeah, I can make that update, no problem.
So there we go, Cindy.
I may have not. Oh, I know we have the flyer that we updated with Cindy's contact information. I don't believe I updated the website, so I'll fix that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sam, well, yeah, I don't have that new flyer. Could you send that to me or is it in the shared Google Drive?
Let me look.
Okay.
I'll either send it to you or send you a link.
Okay.
And Noella, while you're still on, is there
I'm
an
not
estimated
going anywhere.
is there an estimated date when the chamber is going to actually be open for people to walk in?
I think we have to wait and see how they get vaccinated and how they feel about it.
Okay, so maybe a month away. Maybe a month away.
As soon as they can all get vaccinated. It's hard to say, but
Okay.
I'd like to, a lot of the people who work in the visitor center, they are so gung-ho and cannot wait to get back to work. So I know it's a courtesy to make sure that everybody feels very comfortable before they return. But knowing most of those folks, they probably would be just waiting with sleeping bags for the door to open. So I'm hoping sooner rather than later too. And certainly I would think well before. It looks like we're going to be moving into red on March 10th, Sam. Possibly.
It's gonna be earlier.
Yes, really. Yay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would imagine within the
The
next
Napa
month
Valley
or so.
Register ran something tonight, so it sounds like it's pretty probable. So
Great.
my
You have a
sources
date?
tell me,
I think it said March
my
3rd.
crystal black my magic 8-ball says that looks pretty positive. So
I think
that's
the
incredible.
register said March 3rd.
That's Wednesday. That's amazing.
That's Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
But that's how the county rolls. They kind of let you know something's coming, and then they really surprise you and throw it at you a week earlier.
we'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, no kidding. That is fabulous. Thank you.
So are we done with marketing?
Yeah, I think so. Is there
Okay.
any?
No, you're doing some great stuff, Cindy, Noelle. So next we have Art Sip and Stroll, and is that Rhonda?
I'm here. So I asked Sam if she could do a screenshot of the rack card that has been received at Community Center. There we go, front and back.
Beautiful.
We ordered 2,500 of them. If anybody has any ideas as to places probably beyond Yountville, Napa, or I know I have a few of those, and you guys might also. It doesn't take a whole lot of them in one spot usually, and if they disappear, then you just put a few more out. But we have them available, and as Noelle pointed out, we're going to use this as a tool to market digitally as well. It gives more information than the poster, but it has the poster on it. So we think we're going to use them as more and more as places open up. So it's here. And as I said, if anybody wants any to hand out, please, Sam, assumingly Stacy still has them.
Yeah, we have them at the front desk. We're packaging them in 50s, and then we'll have staff start getting them out there. And then we also, once we gets a little closer, we also offer to send them to all of the artists who are participating in the mail if they want to put some
that's
out and
nice.
mail them to people.
Cool. That's great.
Since I work in
We
Napa,
should all, most of them I find unfortunately are not, it's not that they're not digitally savvy, but a lot of them just don't use that as much. But maybe we should make the digital file available also in case they want to post it on their websites or use it for any digital marketing. Would that be okay to send?
Yeah, we usually prepare a whole digital marketing file for them. So it includes like when we've structured Instagram posts, structured Facebook posts, but we can definitely include that and whatever else. So
Great, that's
yeah.
great.
I think Robin.
I was going to say I'm happy to take some to some of the concierge hotels in Napa.
That'd
Wonderful.
be awesome.
And I think you had a little
Coordinate
dog come in
with
the
you.
door behind you. It just
My
opened.
dog. It's
I
the dog.
see.
I know, Ghost.
I see it.
I want to say one more thing too. We've thrown a big marketing learning curve at Robin this year, and she is by our side supporting everything we're doing and making herself available and all that. I know Rhonda and I, excuse me, Cindy and I have gone kind of hog wild, and but she's there. She's right there with us and with all her support and with lending a hand whenever she can. I know we're doing a lot of talking, but. She's there too.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Then next, as you know, you've probably all looked at the website by now. Art Sip and Stroll is up and beautiful and looking good. And our own website for Yountville Arts has all been updated as we receive information, any more information on Art Sip and Stroll. With Sam's help, we also extended the art call. We only had 4 artists at the time, and doing the arithmetic on those that had already been juried in, and those 4, it just seemed a little light. So Sam agreed to open that art call back up. And Sam, did you do a total on how many we have?
I think we have 13 this morning. So we had, just so you all know, that anybody who was juried into last year's show that wanted to come back this year was automatically included, but we only had 4 new artists that applied. So yeah, I think we've gotten 13. And I also put together an email list, which I'll put in the Google Drive, of area arts organizations. And I've had 3 that are really engaging. So, posting it and on their social media and all of that. So that was beneficial as well.
That's great. And it's going to be open through March 7th. But just even with the 13, it gives us a little bit more push for those who may fall out in the process or for one reason or another. And we still don't know exactly, given the restrictions, the health restrictions, and presuming we can do the live event, we still don't know how many tents we're actually going to have because we'll be spacing out differently. So in any event, it's open for another week, and we think it's going to put us in a better position. And then Sam, I guess once it closes, we'll rally for a jury date. It shouldn't take any of us very long
No,
yeah.
No, it should be fairly easy. So yeah, I'll send that out to you guys to take a look at.
Sounds great. And then the last thing is we have Michael Aronson, who's our graphic designer and who has been very reasonable for us to work with. He gives us his wholesale to wholesale printing costs. And so we've asked him to give us quotes on producing the pole banners in town, and the information is still coming in. We had a really amazing quote, but it was only single-sided, and Noel felt pretty strongly we should have them double-sided. So now he's searching for a different printer, and we know the cost will be a little bit more, but compared to kind of the open market where they're around $100, $120 each, he is so far down that we think we'll be able to afford to do some, or, we're talking about how many we would want to do that makes sense. We do have the Art Sip and Stroll banners from, was it last year, 2019, that Noel worked with the chamber on doing for us.
The
So
slightly used banners,
yeah,
very,
slightly.
very slightly used.
Slightly. But they're not dated. And I think if we do it correctly, we don't want to use them both and make it confusing for people. So if we use them both, we have to just strategically lay out which poles are going to get which. And all that has to be worked out. But before we do any of that, we need to nail down the price. So that's where we are now. And Noelle, unless you have anything else on Art Sip and Stroll, that's all I have.
Do we know if you'll be able to use the parking lot again over at the marketplace?
Working on that.
Good.
So they have a new general manager, so I'm working on getting a meeting with him. So
Okay, good.
so hopefully we'll know soon.
There was one little thing. Rhonda is working on scheduling a meeting for us with Lydia Carriere, Guy's representative. So we're going to start moving to see what she wants to bring to the party in terms of marketing. I know she's really planning on a lot of people visiting from her client list, because I know she'd like to have tickets set aside and get collateral material from us. We're doing the best we can, because until we know it's a live event, it's hard to really push too hard, but she's right in there with us and totally supports everything the town has done, and the Arts Commission in particular. So we'll be working with her to kind of, we'll just keep things going. We're going as though it's happening, and then it will.
Yeah.
Especially with the March 3rd red. I mean, now I really feel confident.
As long as people are smart.
I think Cindy had a question.
Yeah, I have a comment and a question. The comment is, Sam, there's a guy, Gary Simpson from Napa Photographic Society has also been really, passing the word along. And so there are a bunch of, it's a group of amateur photographers that get together and,
Yeah, we've worked with them in the past on a show.
Oh, you have? Okay.
In the gallery, yeah.
Yeah, so I
don't think he was on the board at that point, but I remember working with them.
So he should be in the email to local people.
Okay.
And I'm going to check out that on the Google Drive. Is that on the Google Drive under Art Sip and Stroll?
It's not there yet. I'm going to put it in there.
Okay, I'll find it.
And I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, but I'll let you know.
Okay.
It's probably better under marketing than it is under Art Sip and Stroll, because it's kind of a general list.
Right. And the other question I had is, before we canceled that show, we were trying to get the local schools, including Oxbow, Oxbow, Napa's Art Center, the college, those folks sort of excited about either participating or coming to Art Sip and Stroll. So down the road, it doesn't need to be this meeting, but down the road, that might be something that, the PR and marketing committee can help to take on, like we did before the pandemic. So.
Yeah, I love the idea of those connections. I know that I don't think Oxbow schools reopened, and unfortunately for the high school arts programs, I think they've been really challenged this year. But I love keeping the connection going.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I think that's it for marketing. Commissioner reports. Rhonda, anything you want to say, or?
The museum is working on several projects, but not really ready to release information.
Okay.
As well as not announcing an opening date for obvious reasons. I believe they're still shooting for late summer, but it's hard to say. So it is ongoing, and those who have given support to the museum, thank you very much. They tell me they will reopen, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is. And I think that's about it. I will announce that tomorrow is a 3 o'clock council meeting, and fairly early in that agenda, I get to give the 2020 Yountville Arts Year in Review. So there's a lot of good stuff to talk about with the council.
Thank
So
you.
unless anybody has another thing to bring up, I think I'm going to adjourn this meeting. So thank you, everybody.
If you want to watch Jim tomorrow, it'll be on the town's YouTube.